Welcome to Austin Stories, full of entitled Karens and gaslighting parents today. All these stories are crazy. Check out more crazy stories on the Austin Stories podcast, available on Spotify, Apple, and more, and with a link in the description. Let the entitlement begin. My Mom and Her Toxic Husband, posted by Royal Loki 2012. So over the weekend, my mom and her husband decided to pack everything up and move halfway across the country with everything they had bungee corded into the back of their pickup with barely any money to work with on their way to near where we live. They called me, 31-year-old male, an hour away, asking to stay without warning. I said yes, since it was late and they had no money for a hotel room and were waiting for Monday for the pawn shops to open so my mom could pawn her ring and whatever else they could do to make it the rest of the way. My girlfriend, 37-year-old female, had to take my mom's husband to the hospital at midnight since he couldn't find his asthma medicine since they packed everything every which way on the truck and she had to go pick him up 2 hours later after being released. On Sunday, he asked me if they could stay for 2 weeks without my girlfriend around, which I found to be very rude and underhanded of him. I told him he needs to talk to her because it isn't my decision to make. After discussing it with her, she had to talk to her mom about it. Now, she owns the house that we live in and pay the rent. She said they had to leave by the time the pawn shops close on Monday, since they didn't call beforehand to set it up to stay any longer than that. Now, before anyone asked, they offered to pay $300 and get $100 in groceries with money that they don't have. He doesn't start his new job until 2 weeks from now. Now, this isn't the first time they've done this with me for the last 6 years while bouncing between states and jobs with no funds to work with. When they were told this, the mood shifted and the gaslighting started. Mom said, "Fine, we won't be a burden on you," and then she refused to eat. She does this when she's upset. Her husband then proceeded to ask if he could talk to my girlfriend's mom and try to convince her. Monday comes around, and while my girlfriend is at work, he calls her and starts going off on her, saying that she probably didn't even try convincing her mom in the first place, and again stated if he tried talking to her, he could try convincing her. He did all this screaming over the phone around her coworkers, throwing the fact that when we went to visit them last year, they could have been kicked out of the hotel room they were staying in long term. Now, ever since we lost the apartment in 2017, that's been a constant thing for them. When they offered to have us stay, so we didn't have to worry about expenses of a hotel room for ourselves. Now, we were going to a convention in the same city that they were in. I came home to see that they were gone. Tuesday gets here, and on my way home from work, I get a phone call from an unknown number, but I knew who it was. This is roughly how the conversation went between me and the toxic husband. Hello? Hey, yeah, you know who this is, right? Yeah, I know who this is. Your mother doesn't know I'm calling you. Do you think there is any way you can convince her mom to let us stay there? Because we already pawned what we could, and we won't have enough money to keep the hotel room another night. I already told you, it isn't my decision. If she said no, then it's no. Well, we won't have anywhere to stay, and your mother will end up sleeping in the truck. I'm thinking in my head, yeah, and I've slept in an abandoned cemetery in the middle of December in a tent to get away from you. I'm sorry, but I can't make that final call. It isn't my decision to make. Has your mother ever abandoned you? No. Has she always been there for you? Yes. So the least you can do is let her stay there. I'm sorry, but again, it isn't my decision, and I don't appreciate you going off on my girlfriend like a scalded dog. You had no right doing that to her. I'll go off on whoever I want, and I don't care if you like it or not. I can do whatever I want, regardless if it makes you mad. I'm thinking in my head, yes, you can, but it doesn't mean you're absolved of the repercussions of your actions. All right, if you don't care. I haven't heard from either of them since. This has been a routine thing with them, and I'm exhausted from dealing with this and his BS for the last 12 years. He has been more or less out of my life the last 6 years, and I refuse to deal with it anymore. If it comes down to it, I will cut both of them out. Complete scorched earth. I shouldn't have to deal with his drama, toxicity, or gaslighting. His failure to take care of himself and her is not my priority. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and don't let anyone toxic or entitled control your life or guilt trip you. If there is something, OP, that I have learned over the years, it's that you can try and beat your head against that wall till you're blue in the face, as they say, to try to change someone or show them the way that, hey, you're being toxic, entitled, narcissist. And the thing that sucks is that no matter what you do, they have to be the one to change. For your own mental health, do what you can do, and then just say, hey, I have to make peace with the fact that they are their own grown adult. They have to make that decision to change their life. If they cut everybody else out, if everybody just quits screwing with them because of all the trouble that comes when they deal with them, then that's on them. That is not on you to bear and shoulder that burden. They have to come to terms, hit rock bottom if it may, with their consequences, just for your mental health. OP, I am sorry you're going through this, but I've dealt with entitled people too, and I know how you feel. It is rough, but thankfully you're coming out on top in the end. Entitled woman at a pharmacy, posted by Psychological Fix-Op. So for a little context, I have a condition that requires I take daily medication for the rest of my life, which sucks, but it is what it is. Because of that, I'm in the pharmacy at least once a month picking up new medication. And anyone who has had to consistently go to the doctors or pharmacies knows that you're eventually going to run into a Karen or two. Usually, it's just some mom whose kid has to get some antibiotics, or someone who doesn't understand that you can't send in a prescription and pick it up in an hour. But this was the only one I thought was bad enough to share. So I was waiting in line at the pharmacy, and this lady walks up and goes straight to the front. The pharmacist explains that there's a line and she needs to wait. She looks annoyed, but goes to the back of the line. So far, nothing really out of the ordinary. It happens on occasion. I'm about third in line and she's in fifth. The craziness started when I was next in line. This lady was waiting in some of the seats and starts crying. I try to ignore it because you could tell that it was obviously fake. Doing that thing that toddlers do, crying and looking around to see if anyone is giving her attention, and when they're not, crying louder. Finally, she was crying loud enough it got the attention of an employee who asked if she was okay. That's when she started complaining to everyone who would listen that I've been here over an hour, which is BS. She came in a few minutes after me, and I had max been there 15 minutes. And I'm sick and I don't understand why you would do this to me. I need my medicine. At this point, all I could do was roll my eyes and think, yeah, lady, you're at a pharmacy. We're here picking up prescription medication. No one's here because we're having a great time at the moment. So I finally get up to the front and they let me know that they have my meds, but they're in a box that hasn't been unpacked and they asked me to wait. No big deal. The system tells me when they come in, not when they're on the shelf. At this point, she is bawling and complaining loudly. You would think she was a little kid who got their toy taken away. I go to sit in one of those seats and just try to ignore her as the guy in front of her gets his medication. Finally, it's her turn, and she magically stops crying on a dime and turns to being angry and complaining to the pharmacist that she's been there for an hour and needs her medication. And how dare they make her wait that long? This happens every time, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, the pharmacist knew that this was BS, but was calm and just moved on. The situation got worse when it turned out this lady had sent in her prescription that morning and it had to be ordered, so obviously they didn't have it. The pharmacist explains that they didn't have it and she needs to give them at least 2 days for that medication. She then starts screaming at full volume saying that was BS, she sent it in 4 days ago so they should have it, and saying this happens at every pharmacy she goes to, and if they were going to do it to her too, she might as well just go back to her old pharmacy. Again, all I could do was try and ignore her and think, yeah, if this happens at every pharmacist, maybe it's not the pharmacy that's the problem. This back and forth went on for a few minutes before she finally accepted they really didn't have the medication and that she would have to wait. She left in a huff and still telling anyone who would listen at how ridiculous it was that they make her wait and she was sick and needed her medication and they should already have it. Finally, My medication was ready, and I joked with the pharmacist about how crazy that was. And she confirmed that the lady does it every time. And every time the time frame that she says that she already submitted gets bigger and bigger. I guess to try to guilt them into thinking it was their mistake and then magically make her medicine appear. Not a crazy exciting story, but I couldn't believe the scene this lady made because she messed up sending her prescription in and was made to wait for 20 minutes max. This is a full blue. I know this is a Karen. I know it is because she exaggerates the truth, throws a fit, and makes it all about her at the scene. Wonders, where's all my attention at? Like, all this is stereotypical narcissist Karen behavior, and she thinks it's going to work by escalating that to what? What's she going to say? I've been waiting here for 3.5 years. Next time? Probably, because that's what she does. Good job on the pharmacist for recognizing this happens every single time, holding her ground. Good job to OP for keeping your cool as well and not giving her the attention that she was craving. You cut it off at the source. Don't fuel her fire with your oxygen as she wastes her carbon dioxide, ranting and raving like the Karen she is. Nice job, OP. I don't work here, posted by Manexplain. I work in an emergency room and do 3 days of 12-hour shifts from 6 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. each week. Because these shifts are exhausting, I always try to get errands done the day before my shifts start so that I can just come home and relax instead of going to the store or the gas station. Last week, I forgot to fill my tank, and I didn't realize it until I came out to go to work that morning, and I wasn't just on E. The low fuel light was on, and unfortunately, there were no gas stations open where I live. Instead, I decided to just chance it. I got on the freeway and I got off at the first exit where I knew there was a gas station that was opened. At this point, the truck was rattling and I knew it was going to shut down if I tried to go any further without some gas. Where I live, Oregon, you are not allowed to pump your own gas, so I'm sitting there waiting for the attendant, but no one is around. I walked inside and yelled, "Hello?" No one answered. Seriously, anyone could have walked in and stolen anything. My truck is off, and I know that she's not going anywhere. I have 15 minutes to get to work, and I am 10 minutes away from the hospital. I am so desperate that I yell, "I'm sorry, I'm on E, so I'm going to pump my own gas. Hope you don't mind." I figured that the attendant was doing the old number 2 in the employee bathroom. As I am walking back to my car, a brand new silver Audi pulls up with a middle-aged female driver in the driver's seat. I didn't think much of it and proceeded to place my card into the machine and start pumping my own gas. Suddenly, she gets out of her car and looks at me. She was clearly annoyed. I need a fill of premium. I ignored her because I'm trying to hurry up and get my gas and still get to work on time. Excuse me, I need a fill of premium. She can clearly see I don't work there. I'm wearing my hospital clothes and I'm wearing my hospital badge. Something inside of me got mad. I deal with a lot of angry people at my job. I've been called every name in the book. I've even had patients assault me. But I had never had someone talk to me like I am dirty. I don't know how to explain it, but there was something in her voice that made me feel less than a human being. Instead of ignoring her like I should have, I simply said, "Lady, I can't help you." Luckily, my gas was finishing being pumped, so I was putting everything away and collecting my receipt as she stormed past me to go inside. Like she was going to go tattle on the bad employee who won't pump her gas. She, too, was confronted with an empty store. She came back out and yelled, "I need my gas pumped now." I heard her call me a dumb witch under her breath. I got in my truck, slammed the door, and started the truck up. Luckily, the truck started immediately. I was so angry at her calling me a dumb witch that I rolled down my window, looked at her, and said, "I don't work here, lady. I just pump my own, and I would have totally helped you had you not been so rude and nasty to me. Have a better day." I didn't stick around. I had to get to work, so I didn't get to look back and see her reaction. I'd like to hope that she learned a lesson in this, but I truly doubt it. If there's been one thing I've learned in my mid-30s years of life, it's that Karens don't see the other or right side of the story. She assumed, which makes a what out of you and me, huh? And that OP was the attendant when he clearly had the hospital clothes on, clearly at his own truck, and just went full Karen mode. Didn't care to get the story, didn't care to listen. She was right, it was her way, super entitled. And OP, good job on standing your ground. Hope you had a better day and that she at least had a good one, but she's a Karen, so she probably won't have a good day, right? Entitled Grandma Takes My Baby From Me. You gotta hear this crazy story. It made my blood boil when I read it. Click it on your screen so you don't miss out on this madness, and I'll see you there.